Welcome back to Your 1230, the only podcast where our guests tell their story with the help of 12 questions in just 30 minutes. I'm your host, Mike Salitro, and tonight we are very excited to be speaking with Conor Kelly. Conor is a young and outgoing real estate professional that prides himself on his work ethic. His drive and competitiveness have led him to pursue a career in real estate. Before real estate, Conor was a Red Seal Plumber with over 9 years of plumbing experience. That experience helped him shape Conor's can-do attitude and developed his willingness to do the things that others simply won't. Conor, welcome. We're really excited to be speaking with you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Mike. Excited to be here.
Of course, of course. And I only read through a brief part of the bio. What I did want to ask you about to kind of kick things off, the bio ends with a quote from Grant Cardone, which I love here: "Be obsessed or be average." Why is that in your bio, and where did you hear it first?
Yeah, I mean, I think I heard it first in one of his books. I think he actually has a book that's called Be Obsessed or Be Average, but I didn't actually hear it in that. I could be wrong. Maybe he doesn't, but I heard it in one of his books. And I just loved it because I found that I was pretty obsessive. And I've had people say that to me before. It's like once I find something, that's all I do for a while. It's all I talk about. It's all I think about. And I think if you look at the top people in any industry, they are all obsessed with what they do. It's all they do. Like, I don't know if you listen to Alex Hormozy. He talks about liking business. That's all he wants to do. He doesn't like having fun. He just likes having business. I mean, it's the same thing with me now is like, I enjoy what I do more than having fun a lot of the time. Right. So, I mean, that quote really resonated with me, and he's got a whole bunch of them. I mean, it's even hard for me to put like one Grant Cardone quote over the other, but I really liked that one from him for sure.
Okay. Well, thank you for walking us through that. You mentioned enjoying what you do professionally more than having fun. Some people hear that and say, "This guy's nuts. What is he talking about?" But how have you been able to get there? How did you find that? And how did you know that this is what I'm meant to be doing because it feels like not like work.
Yeah, it felt different going from plumbing to this. Like I genuinely had a passion for real estate. I love business. I just love making progression towards something. Like even when I was really young playing video games, all my buddies would be doing like all the fun stuff in the video game and I'd be doing all the like boring monotonous stuff to like make my character better or whatever. So I just like the feeling of progression. I like the feeling of getting a reward when you do something. I just felt like I wasn't really getting that from plumbing. And to me, just progression, producing is more fun. It's almost like because it's almost like playing a video game. Like your life is almost like a real life video game. You try to make your character better, you try to make more money for your character. And to me, that's fun, right?
Okay. Yes, I see the parallels there. So uh, plumbing is a very specific skill, and I think that's one that either you have an interest and skills toward or you don't. How did you get started there? And then how did you decide, nope, even though I'm good at this, I don't know if I want to do this?
Yeah, I have two mechanics in the family. They both told me don't be a mechanic. And after being a plumber, I understand why they said that. It's just you're working in tight spaces with your back contorted and like it's like being a mechanic gets harder as cars evolve, whereas plumbing actually gets easier because they make tools and they invent new, material that's easier to install for plumbing, whereas cars kind of
Interesting.
get more difficult, right? So I became a plumber because that's what they said to do. And honestly, I think it was the right decision. It taught me a lot of, grit and it taught me a lot about just having mental fortitude, just like keep going when stuff really sucks. I had a lot of really long night shifts and on-call shifts and stuff where you're like freaking crying in the back of your van at 3 a.m. because you can't find some particular part. You just want to go home and sleep. So it taught me a lot of really good, like just overall life skills and traits, which has now allowed me to be successful in this.
Okay, that makes sense, and that's a good visual because at 3 o'clock, I could see that bring anybody to tears. Uh, so who do you most often find yourself working with in real estate, and how did you get started?
Yeah, I mostly work with investors. How I got started was I owned two investment property and principal residence that I was living in before I got licensed. And then when I got licensed, I just started putting out content about investing because I knew a lot about investing. I had spent a lot of time researching it obsessively, like listening to the Bigger Pockets podcast, reading books, doing all that stuff. So I knew a lot about investing that a lot of most realtors don't know about investing. So I just started putting out content about that. And then naturally, you attract what you are. So most of my clients are now investors. And yeah, the social media thing has been great for me. I get to work with the people that are like me. You know what I mean?
I do. And that's fascinating that you had multiple properties before you started helping others. How did you mentioned primary residence. How did you get started, or how did you know that real estate investing was something that was attainable for you? Because you see a lot of people that are just starting out professionally that it's difficult to find one place to live, one place to afford, where you've got uh, multiple properties. How did that happen?
Well, over here in Vancouver, BC, real estate is pretty much the hot topic. Everyone talks about it all the time. I don't know if you've ever looked at Vancouver real estate, but it is well renowned as being the biggest bubble in the world. Although I don't know if it actually is a bubble. It's just if you rate it on any fundamental metric, it looks like a bubble. So when I was like 15, 16, everyone's talking about real estate. You're hanging out with parents, they're with their friends, they're talking about real estate. And I just somewhere along the line learned that rental property was the way that you essentially build wealth, right? So it's something that I always knew I wanted to get into. And then basically going into my 20s, I was super frugal, didn't really buy new clothes, didn't go on vacation, didn't spend money on anything. And I just, kind of worked my ass off and saved as much money as I could. Bought my first property at 22. A year after that, got my second property. And then 2 years after that, got my third. And it was all just living very frugally, saving money, working hard. Today, I probably wouldn't advise somebody do what I did. I'd probably advise start a business because you can't really outsave what's going on. You have to out earn what's going on. But that's what I did. And if I went back, I probably wouldn't do it that way again. But it worked for me.
That's really wise advice. One, to understand that your path is not always right for the next person out there, or whoever might be looking to even replicate what you've done. And two, that the market is going to dictate your investment strategy. That just because something worked one point in time, that as you point out saving the market is probably not shrewd. So investors come to you now. Are they looking for properties? Are they looking for strategy? What do you provide them that they are not getting from other realtors in the market?
Uh, Obviously, personalized financial advice, but well, I shouldn't say financial advice, but personalized real estate investing advice or guidance. But a lot of my investors kind of already know what they want when they contact me, and I just kind of find it for them. You know what I mean? But I do get the odd one that's maybe a first time investor, and I kind of guide that client. But a lot of my clients, I'd say, are pretty sophisticated. They've bought quite a few properties, they know what they want. And there's a lot of the time, like, there's like, hey, I'm looking for a pre-sale, pre-construction condo. Find me one that has the best terms. If I find the one with the best terms and the decent location, they'll buy it, right? But yeah, I mean, right now I'm telling people to get into detached, buy some land right now. I mean, that's going to be your best bet. But if you can't afford a $1.2 million house, then, maybe get into a pre-sale and kind of ride out the market. And in 2 years, hopefully rates are lower type of thing and rent is higher. Right.
Okay, it makes sense. Um, you mentioned that social media has been good for you as far as developing a business pipeline. What have you been able to use social for to get your message out, and who's finding you there that may not have found you otherwise?
Pretty much all my business comes through social media.
Okay.
So, I mean, I did 57 transactions my first year as a licensed realtor. 42, 45 of those probably came through TikTok, believe it or not.
I'm stopping you
So
right there. Just for anybody listening, 57 transactions as a first year agent is incredible. So very well done, Connor. And you said almost 45, 42 from TikTok?
yes, somewhere in
Okay.
that. And thank you. I appreciate that. But yeah, 40 to 45 of those came through TikTok, which always people don't even believe me. Like, oh, that's like a dancing app for 17-year-olds or whatever, right? It's not. It works the exact same as every other app. The only difference is that my reach is higher on TikTok. I get to reach more people. So I just once I saw the TikTok thing working out, I put out a video about one of the investment properties that I own. It took off. It went viral. I had 150,000 views, and I didn't even know I was going to get business from this at that time. I was just like, that's a lot of people. I should probably just keep doing this because, again, Grant Cardone, he says I can't do business with you if I don't know you. And I'm like, well, that's a lot of people that know me, so I might as well just keep doing this. And then a month later, the phone started ringing and pretty much hasn't stopped since. So I've just doubled down on social media. I started the YouTube. I post more consistent on Instagram, still doing the TikTok, YouTube shorts, doing everything now.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep going on this because I think that's an area that people love to find out what's working, how you're able to crack the code. So you're on multiple platforms. Sounds like you're consistent and you're getting uh, plenty of content out there on different avenues. How do you know if something is working outside? I mean, obviously 150,000 views, that's worked, but do you have a
Yeah.
way to test, or what is your method?
For the most part, how you know something is working is going to come down to views. I say, like, unfortunately, that's just kind of the way it is, because views tell you that the consumer is interested in the content you're putting out, because basically you're not going to get a good amount of views without having a high average watch time. So if you have a good amount of views, that tells you that people are interested in the video and they're watching it, right? So now, a lot of people aren't going to get a lot of views in their first videos, and that's because they suck at making videos, right? But how do you get better at it? You have to do it in quantity, right? You can't have quality without quantity. The problem with it is most people don't actually do the amount of volume required to, then start the feedback loop that, tells them, hey, I'm doing this wrong. How do I troubleshoot that? Right. So it really just comes down to, it definitely works and it can work for everybody. You just have to find out how it's going to work for you. And that's going to, involved with that is going to be testing and quantity, right?
So you mentioned it in passing that starting off as a plumber taught you grit, taught you hard work, taught you kind of the way to push through. And every story you've told or every experience you've relayed, that's the common theme, that things could be difficult, things were not easy. I figured out the best way to do it. I figured out how and just kept my head down and went forward. So it makes a ton of sense. Whether that was a plan or not, well done. Um, so you also mentioned having rental property, and as somebody in your teens into your 20s, choosing to save, choosing to be frugal, and then choosing to be a landlord, those are not your everyday decisions. If you'd said, I was going out all the time, I was not saving any money, I think that's what your typical 22-year-old is going to tell you. Did you have a mentor, a real life example? You mentioned people talking about real estate, but talking is one thing. Actually following through with it is another. How did you have the discipline to kind of follow that path?
No, I didn't have anybody, man. Like, I didn't have anybody to look up to really in my circle or anything. I honestly think it just comes from playing video games when I was like super young, to be honest with you. Like, I think that's what helped build. I figured out at a young age, hey, if I just do this, I'm gonna be better than everybody. I'm gonna kick everybody's butt later on if I just like do all the boring, monotonous stuff right now. So that's kind of what I did. And like, I did party and stuff in my 20s, like everybody else, but I just didn't spend money on, like, at that time, people were buying, like, lifting their trucks and buying $4,000 fuel tires and putting Bose sound systems in their car and going on 6-month vacations to Thailand. And like, I wasn't doing any of that stuff. Sure, I was going out and having a couple drinks at the pub and stuff like that, but everything else just went into savings to buy the property. But where that discipline came from, honestly, I couldn't tell you. I think I just kind of figured it out.
Okay, well, it's good to figure it out. Probably a good choice not to get the lift in the truck either. But since you brought it up again, I do have to ask, and I'm going to probably age myself here, but what video games were you playing? Because I'm picturing something that is not teaching me these life lessons. So what were you playing that actually, kind of set the path for the next 15 years of your life?
So I played a lot of World of Warcraft. I was like the number one mage in the world in
Okay.
2009, or one of the top mages in the world in 2009. And I played a lot of RuneScape. I played a lot of CS. It wasn't even called CSGO back then. It was just CS, like Counter Strike 1.6 or whatever. And just a lot of video, like a lot of the stuff I played was just like, you had to make your character better, right? Like, that's what World of Warcraft is all about. It's like, make your character better, right? And now I just kind of play World of Warcraft, but in real life.
And how do you do that in real life? What are you doing to get better tomorrow?
I'm always going to the gym. I'm always trying to, I know I don't look like it. I'm working on it though. I always trying to educate myself, get better. I'm consistently like, I never miss on anything. Like I preach when it comes to social media that it needs to be consistently done. Remove the negotiation process, right? Like a lot of people are like, oh, I don't have anything to post today, and maybe it'll be okay if I just like post tomorrow. No, get rid of that, right? Like I have been doing this now for 2 years. I have like 1,900 posts on TikTok. I have a whole bunch on, I've probably posted like 5,000 videos, right? So do the numbers on that, but just never miss on anything, right? Like that's the most important thing. That's what has allowed me to do those transactions, do those deals, and build up the skill and get better at social media. It's just the sheer volume and the consistency of doing it, right?
So my background is also real estate, and I can't tell you how refreshing it is to talk to you because you're so willing to put in the work and you're okay with things that are difficult, and that is not always the case. So that is why you were able to do such a high number of transactions, and why you've been successful on everything that you've touched so far, because you're okay with incremental progress and you're okay with the hard work and you're okay knowing that I have to be disciplined. This must be done today, tomorrow, and the next day, and that's how this is going to get done. As opposed to, I'm going to try this, or I look stupid, or I didn't get what I wanted, so I'm not going to do it. That is all kind of part of it. So I
Exactly.
want to applaud you for that because it's not even in our industry, but in many industries, it's how do I get to that finish line as fast, as easy, as painless as possible, and you've not taken that path. So very well done. I want to applaud you there.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you.
Course. Is there a story that you tell either to somebody who's like, look, I see your videos, I see that you're making money in real estate, you're investing, things are working well. I want to do what you're doing. How can I do it? Or what can I do to be more like you? Is there a story that you tell people or something that's like, you need to know this?
I would say that I wasn't always as consistent as I am, and I always wanted to be more jacked and be more this and be more that, but I could never really stay consistent at something long enough. What really, really changed for me was in 2020. I stopped drinking, I stopped smoking, I let all my vices go. So I don't drink or smoke or do anything today. I just 100% focus on this. And from that point forward, it is insane how much easier life got and how much easier it was to stay consistent without those distractions. That's probably the number one thing, and it's so funny because I don't think I've actually met anybody who's taken my advice so far. Yet a lot of people ask me, and this is what I tell them: stop drinking, stop smoking, stop doing all the stupid crap that you already know in your subconscious mind that you shouldn't be doing it, and then watch how fast your life takes off. I don't think a single person has taken that advice yet, but that is what ultimately changed my life and made everything way easier.
That's that's I don't know what the word is, but I would say interesting, but that's strange that people would ask you, get pretty actionable. I don't call it basic advice because it is very difficult to do, but and
It's
no
not
one has
easy.
taken it. No, it's not
It's not
easy,
easy,
but
but it's
it's
simple.
simple. Yeah.
It's simple, right? But yeah, it's mind blowing to me, right? Like if I was a brand new agent and I like, because you know how being a brand new agent, you're super stressed out and you're like anxious kind of all the time about like, oh, what should I do? Like nothing's really working. I'm like, dude, just do this. I'm telling you, this is going to improve your business like tenfold. Nobody ever does it. So
So take me into are you still friends with the same group that you were friends with when you were doing those things? How has that changed? Or do people treat you differently? Because I would think that it would be the hard part would be the lifestyle change, not the physical dependency, sure, but I think it would be, well, that's where I go hang out with my friends, or that's how I relax. So how is that transition?
no, I mean it has like I see my friends a lot less now, but I think that's just life. Like things change, people have kids, people move away, whatever. But I'm still like pretty good friends with all those friends. And it's just whenever I hang out with them, I'm just drinking a non-alcoholic beer. And half the time people don't even know that I'm not drinking because I still interact with people and blah blah blah. And but I had to, kind of learn those skills too, because I drank pretty much every time I was with friends since I was like 14 years old. And then I had to basically relearn how to socialize without having that stimulant. Right. So yeah, it's tough in the beginning, but then you just learn how to live without it and you don't need it. And then you don't need something to stimulate you, give you fake confidence so you can go talk to your friends or mingle with people, right? Like just go do it without it, right?
I think that's the best way I've ever heard anybody describe it, because you're spot on that it's not giving you any secret power. It's not giving you any superpower. It's none of those things. That it's a social, uh, I guess, behavior or activity. But that
It's just a way
said,
to fit in, right? So you don't feel kind of like weird when you're hanging out with, because everyone's like, I don't even know how to hang out with these people if I don't drink, because that's all we've ever done is drink every time we've ever done anything, right? But you don't need it.
it's good advice. And that said, I was going to say there are a few places that I would rather be than a bar with a bunch of people drinking and be the one who's not. So I think that would be the difficult part. But you make it sound like it's not so bad. So if you're listening to this and looking for that change, it could be it. Changing gears, you mentioned Alex Hormozy, who dedicated to work, not having fun. You mentioned that your work is your fun, or that's where you spend your time. What do you do to unwind, to at least take your mind off of what could be a difficult day, or how do you relax?
I like a cigar. I like a cigar still. I'll smoke a cigar every once in a while. And I'll just go have like a nice dinner with my fiance. Um, Last year I played a lot of golf. I haven't played a lot of golf this year, but I like playing golf. I think it's like a mini vacation being out on the course for like those 4 hours in the morning. That's nice. But other than that, and then like maybe like a vacation here and there, although I haven't taken one in, I don't know, the last 2 years, pretty much since I got licensed. But I would like to take a vacation pretty soon here. But yeah, that's about it, man.
Okay, those are good answers. And what's next for you, Connor?
What's next for me? I mean, I just want to keep doing what I'm doing. I want to keep building my personal brand. I mean, I think the way I look at a personal brand is it's almost just like a CRM, right? Like the more people follow you, the more people you're getting in your CRM, the more people you have to retarget and sell stuff to later on. And they're all like warm leads as opposed to being cold leads, right? So it's a lot more powerful. Every dollar, every bit of time you put into a personal brand compounds, pays money back to you, far more than I would say every dollar into ad spend or something like that, right? So just want to keep building my personal brand. I want to be the most well-known realtor in Canada. I want to eventually pivot and be more of a real estate coach. So I do have a coaching program now that I've launched, but long term, I'm still mostly focused on selling homes, of course, but long term, I'd like to kind of transition into that role in the future, right?
Very nice. Very nice. And I'm glad I asked you that, because as you kind of go through what's next, uh, you hit on keeping the foundation of your business intact, what's been working, and tying that to a personal brand. And I think that you're really smart to double down on the warm leads, or people that get to know you, because uh, that's where your business has been coming from, and that's where you get much stronger leads in general. When you talk about personal brand, what do you hope that those first degree connections are telling others, or when you're not in the room, what do you want somebody to tell their friend, their relative, your possible introduction about you? What do you hope that one sentence is?
Knowledgeable and entertaining, I guess. Knowledgeable and entertaining.
Okay, those are two good qualities.
Yeah.
So TikTok for sure. Where can our listeners find you if they want to connect or learn more?
At that Agent Kelly on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Feel free to shoot me a follow. Feel free to shoot me a DM, whatever you like. That's where you'll find me.
Okay, so we'll post all those. Uh, I started off by awkwardly asking you about a question or quote in your biography. Yeah, in your bio. If you could post one quote of your own somewhere on a billboard, what would you want it to say?
Of like something that I've said.
Either that you've said, that you live, that's part of your personal brand, something that was a message you'd want to get out there.
I think the biggest quote of my life that has really changed everything was by something Jordan Peterson said. And he said, I know he's like controversial now or whatever, right? But he had this quote. He said, "Stop doing all the stupid shit you know you shouldn't be doing." And then I said that earlier in this podcast, but after I heard that, I sat that night and I thought, I'm like, wow, I'm like, I am doing a lot of stupid shit that I know I shouldn't be doing. I should probably stop doing all of those things and just see what happens. So
Hasn't stopped working out. So that's a good choice. I don't know Jordan Peterson, so I can't speak to the uh, level of acceptableness, but that's a good quote. So it's a good choice. We'll end here. I have bounced around all over the place and you've given fantastic answers. So thank you. But what did I not ask you that I probably should have?
that's a good question, man. I don't know. I think your questions have been pretty on point, to be honest with you. I think you've pretty much covered most of the bases.
I will take that. Conor, thank you for joining us. This has been a real blast. I wish you immense success going forward. Congratulations on all that you've accomplished so far and nothing but the best, my friend.
Hey, thanks, Mike. You too, my friend. I really appreciate this.